Hello all, and welcome to another video. In this one, I am joined by two notable people from Down Under, as we're going to be going over the Australian Clash of Kings lists. So I'm joined by Ken, who is from Queensland,
Hello.
and Dru, who is basically the Aussie equivalent of Dan King, as in bad sexual puns ahoy.
G'day, but I'm not. But I'm crap at the game, so I'm not really Dan King at all.
You could say, some would argue you're either the better or worse half of Dan King.
I'm the spank you half.
So basically, the Australian Masters list came out, and I was looking through them. They're actually surprisingly different from what we kind of generally see in the UK. So I thought it'd be quite nice just to do a sort of a video just to kind of go through them and get a kind of feel for the differences in the meta. So Ken, why don't you kind of just give us a bit of a background about the Australian scene as it stands just now?
Yeah, I've been from Queensland. I can mainly talk about the Queensland one. So kicking off there, we've been working hard over the last year and a half building the scene. I generally find a lot of the gamers in our community now have come more from the historical games rather than ex-Warhammer, so on and so forth. We're very much focused on building the community, introducing new players. So we started off with eight. We're up to about 45 now that turn up and take part. We run tournaments, we run events. We ran the big battle back in August with 100,000 points. With regard to meta in Queensland, we see all sorts of lists. So we definitely see the list that you're looking at for Masters. They're common. We see the more balanced lists. Bit of shooting, bit of melee, bit of flying. We see the mass horde lists as well. I think I played a goblin army once that had something like 24 drops that was just horrendous to get through. All melee goblins as well. It nearly filled the table. What we find, because we have so many events, and so we've had 18 tournaments and 6-7 other events, plus each of the groups hold their nightly stuff. One of the big things we've done is made sure that all the groups are in contact with each other, all the clubs, all the venues. I've tried to sit across the top of that and speak to people and say, hey, let's coordinate, have them on the same day. So you get a real mixed bag at tournaments. And we do face these lists. We face all sorts of lists, which give us a great deal of experience.
It's a very organised sounding scene. Surprisingly organised, if I say so.
Yeah, it's unfortunately that's me. That's in my nature. I do it for work, so I'm very enamoured with the game. I've not done tournaments for a long time because of all the shenanigans that go on. Mm-hmm. With the game, I've found there is no shenanigans really. It's fairly well balanced as it can be. The scenarios play out. We've from day one used the clocks. We've been very keen on that. Mm-hmm. When we first saw the COK pack, just about every single player went, yep, we like that, and we've stuck to that. And generally, everyone's a great bunch of guys. Like I say, it's now more become a community. It's like Clash of Kings Australia. From Queensland, we've got 12 of us going down at the minute in a convoy, because I don't know whether you know Australia, but it's a 1,200 kilometre trip. So it's a 14-hour drive down, and there's a 3, 4, 5 actually more just waiting to secure time off work. So, and we're going down together, we're staying together, everyone's practicing together, and I like that side about the game and the community it's built.
That's good to hear.
So we notice in our tournaments there's no definitive meta, I would say. Everyone plays very different lists, and we've just learnt to deal with it. My personal experience of the rest of Australia, Clint and myself went down to Castle Assault back in October and came across players there, and my list got talked about. I play a very elite Varanga list, mm-hmm. which I didn't think was too bad, but what we did notice, we did happen to take out a 1-2, but we just noticed it. We put it down to experience. We've played against just about all the armies in all the scenarios, and we just know what to do, mm-hmm. From experience. I'm sure as the rest of Australia or New South Wales, I can speak for, because I've seen them play. I'm sure as they get more experience, that they'll learn the same as we have. It's knowing when to take risks, when not to take risks, knowing the scenarios. I can't remember playing kill in the last 6 months, for
Yeah,
example.
it's pretty uncommon over here these days as well.
We play a lot of push. I think we played push the week after it came out in the COK pack and loved it. That's more or less replaced loot. Control, we weren't sure about. It just looked far too complex to work out the results. But now we've played it. That's a good one. It's one I personally can't. I really struggle with. I've only got 7 drops, and one of them doesn't count for control. So it's a bit of a bugger, that one for me. But I just persevere. I've played the same list all year. And yeah, I've come across new people. And when I'm against a new person, I spend most of the game advised on what to do. And then I play all the top players with a mixture of lists, hard lists, so on and so forth. I think the only list I haven't managed to beat in a tournament is the Goblin shooting list. I've beat it casually a few times.
It's a tough list, that one.
Oh, it's a very, very tough list with a player who knows what to do.
Yeah, that's the key thing.
I think personally to me that 70% of this game is the player. 20% maybe the list and 10% luck. Which is why I like the game. It comes down to the player.
Yeah. So now, Drew, you're from a different bit of Australia, which I'm assuming is not quite next door to Ken.
Well, everything's next door in Australia because we're
depends by your definition of next door.
Let me set the scene for you real quick, because we're going to talk about players coming from 4 different regions. So you have Queensland, which is the state Ken's talking about, which is up the northeast. People probably seen pictures of Cairns with the beautiful beaches. That's not where they're from. That's right at the top. But they're from Brisbane, which is down the bottom. I think it's the most decentralised state in the world as far as having a major population centre distance from the capital. So it's it's a big state. But anyway, they're down there. That's where they are. To drive, as Ken says, to drive from Brisbane, the capital, where they are based, around there, and Ken looks after, coordinates all of their big tourneys with all the different clubs, does an awesome job. Then it's I think it's 10 hours, but according to Google, to drive to Sydney, so it's about 12 to 14 with breaks and traffic. Sydney's the next big hub, and Newcastle's between them, and that's where that tournament was. And Ken mentioned, and then if you drive to Melbourne, which is Victoria, where guys like Andrew Goodman and Matt Lane are from, who are also going to the event, that would be another further 9 hours plus breaks of driving. And then I think Boothie is also in the event, and he, I believe, Ken, is from Perth, and he's the other Goblin list, not the Shooty Goblin list, and that's like a 4-hour flight. So from the other side,
these are some dedicated players here who are showing up for this one.
Yeah, so it's a big deal for people to get into the Masters. I'd point out too, Ken, by the way, because it's the top 10, and a few events you have an auto entry. It passed down because not everyone can afford the trip or the time off, because it's quite a commitment as sort of establishing. But I'll point out, give Ken a bit of kudos and credibility in this discussion. He's 7th overall in the country at the moment. So in this year's rankings, that just wrapped up. So Ken had the opportunity to go, but obviously couldn't. So he knows what he's talking about when he's saying the Queensland Meta really know what they're doing. I don't have any real credibility in the game at all because I'm not very good at it. But I have played at last CanCon. I played Chris Wilcox, who's got that Goblin shooting army prior to the Clash of Kings nerf, and it was tougher then. And I got a draw out of him. So Ken, I've got one up on you. I've actually drawn the harder version of that army, which you probably have played a lot when you saw it pre-Clash of Kings.
Yeah, I used to play it when he had the 9 whiz bangs in there and the 9 trombones.
Bloody hell.
9, yeah.
Oh, that's horrible sounded.
I'll take this opportunity real quick to talk, though, about some people that, and a few of these I've tried to get hold of for the podcast, but there's a few people that need a bit of props, since we're sort of publicly talking about the events going on, who sort of coordinate a lot of these scenes. So I'll just take this opportunity if I can.
Go for it.
Nick Legren in New South Wales does quite a lot. He's actually playing in the Masters. He coordinates a lot of events to get things going. Ken Ferris is also playing in the Masters, and he's the one who really was a big driver in getting the New South Wales Masters event, the Australian Masters event kicked off in the rankings. Ken obviously is on. Ken Dunford is on the podcast with us. He's the man for Queensland and generally has been a big driver in the scene anyway. Mike Crossman in Victoria, who's got a lot of the Victorian guys that are going with events regularly, and Matt Crow here in ACT. I'm in the Australian Capital Territory, which is about 3 hours south of Sydney, between Sydney and Melbourne. The guy called Matt Crow, he's running Clash of Kings Australia, their first Clash of Kings endorsed tournament, and that'll be in January. That's our major tournament for the year, and it was the biggest tournament in the world this year when we had it in January. It's been superseded since. It's about 44 or 46 people, and it's still the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, and hoping that'll break it this year. And Matt's organising that and doing an awesome job. And then Andrew Galea did this year's one, so they should get a bit of a wrap too. So I think I've just covered off some of the main players who should get a bit of a fist bump, give you a bit of an idea of the geography. Meta-wise, Queensland, Ken did a good summary. Queensland play a lot more than everybody else. They see all the lists. You'll see that what I consider the two hardest lists on paper are from Queensland. I think that reflects their meta a lot. They come hard. The Goblin shooting list at the top of that list. The other metas are, I don't want to say more self-regulated, but different. Every meta is a little bit different as far as people get used to what they play and play the same sort of stuff to counter. Mm-hmm. So I think things like Masters will be good because it will cross-pollinate the metas a lot more. Just like CanCon this year, when because last year everything was quite new for people. January this year, when we have the big event and Queensland sending down a large contingent, there will be a lot more cross-pollination, a lot more exposure to different types of playing, fast play against the clocks, those sort of things. Mm-hmm. So I think the lists themselves are all quite strong. Obviously, there's a Masters field, but as we talk through the list, I think we'll quite quickly identify that there's a bit of a gap between some of the metas as far as what people are, what hardness of list they're used to fielding. So hopefully that was what you're looking for.
Yep, a very good summation, I think, of the situation, and paints a nice picture and showing the differences, especially sort of between the likes of the UK and that. Because there's one thing that did jump out with the meta. The lists actually look quite different in some regard to what we see over here. So, talking to lists, let's crack on and have a look at them. So, first up here, we have Matthew Lang with his dwarf list. Bit of an interesting one. Seems to be a relatively mixed bag. Liking the Brock Riders, they're always quite powerful, and the Berserker Lords, kind of sort of a reasonably good list I've sort of seen floating around. The surprise one for me was he's got Hernus on there as well, the Hunter. So what do you guys think of this one?
It's a nice list. It's not really, in my opinion, it's not really committing to anything. We have a guy who stole my idea, actually, which was a fully mounted dwarf army, something like 6 Brock regiments, the 3 Berserker Lords, and the special character whose names escapes me at the minute. So I'm a bit unsure about this one. It just seems a bit disjointed, not really committing either way. So I'm not sure how this one's going to go at all. I
wasn't sure what Hernus was in there for, because I know he's got, he helps the Rangers slightly, but what does he actually bring?
Well, he brings for the Rangers, and also he's got an extra sniping, the Skewer. So I actually think if you're running double Rangers, so you vanguard them up, he gives them the inspiring.
Ah, right. I see what you're going with that. Yeah, okay.
So that's the double Ranger Vanguard with Ernest. I actually quite like. I think that's actually quite a nice thing. You don't see that enough. And the crossing strength 1, which is quite challenging to get in, ironically, in the dwarf lists.
Mhm.
I don't. He's kind of gone for a bit of everything, and I don't mind it. I think he's going an extra flame belcher would have been good. I don't think he has really a lot that says "come at me, bro," to force the issue.
Mhm.
So, he's got lots of little Brock. He's got the 2 little Brock Rider troops, which are kind of cool because they're still, fearless 16. The Brewer Strength and Caterpillar on the regiments are sort of par for course. It's sort of the default loadout. But then he's got the Iron Guard with Brew of Haste, and giving Brew of Haste to a dwarf foot troop is kind of like polishing a turd. I just think
Yeah,
it's
that one did surprise me a little bit, I have to admit, when I saw the Brew Haste in the Horde.
So I kind of get why that's there. That's to come back or potentially in the push scenario, dump all the tokens on it or something because it's going to be 5 and anyway. So he's maybe thinking about that so that he's not tied down. But I would have potentially considered it on a Rangers unit. I don't know, but I really think that it's an interesting list. The Blade of the Beast Slayer I love on the mounted Berserker Lords. I think that's a fantastic element. But I do think that he has a lot of points in individuals that won't be able to contest or at half, depending on the scenario, and just doesn't have the power to force the issue.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting because it's a bit different.
Okay. So next up now we have Ben Hansen with Empire Dust, again an army we don't see a lot of in the UK. So it's again looks a bit of a mixed bag, this one.
Yeah, I'm not convinced about the Idol. It's a hell of a point sink.
Yeah, 350.
Not that great an effect. The Behemoths, yeah, fair enough. They're going to be hard to take down. Got the Overshooters or whatever they are, Guardian Archers, the same thing. I can't see any punch in that list at all. And he's got 2. Yeah. He's got 2 catapults there. He's got didn't he have stuff? He's got the bolt shooters on the Behemoths, and they're just not going to do much, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think the Idols is too much points. He's gone for a lot of defense 6 on his sort of big stuff. But I think it's a mixed bag, like the Chariots with Brewer Keen-eyedness. Interesting. He's going for obviously trying to make them. Sorry, the Chariots with the potion of Caterpillar. I'm like to try and give his some range to attack, but again, it's one of those polishing turd things. I think a horde of Chariots.
Are you guys using the great Clash of Kings pack at this one? So, like, for instance, the Fair was actually Def 10, Def 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but even a Def 5 is still a no-brainer. Like, there's some elements in it, like the Pharaoh with the Wings of Honey Maze. Mm-hmm. You're in a Masters list, you're going to see that if you have Empire Dust. But I'm just, personally, in fact, Ben didn't want to take this if he had a choice. I think he also had his Orcs, which he prefers, but they weren't painted. So this is, I think, a lot of this is what he actually has painted. To be fair, and he's done well this year anyway. But I think it's not a great list personally. Hopefully I'm wrong. And just to give context, Matt, the first guy we did was from Victoria, Melbourne area, and Ben is in, I think he's Newcastle, right? So New South Wales.
Yeah, Ben's in Newcastle, New South Wales.
And he has the gaming guy is his store.
All right.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean Ben's list. I should have said it. I sort of rated them all quickly before it came out. Just back to Matt's, I'd given 7 out of 10. Ben list, I'd given 6 out of 10 ish. But Drew's right. Ben was more or less forced to take this list because he wanted to play with fully painted army.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So next up we have Nick Legrand with it's kind of mixed Rudia, which to be honest we don't see much of in the UK at all, with some Bastille allies. Well, we say Bastille allies, ALOI, the Angels as usual. Quite powerful unit. So what's the thoughts on this one then?
I'm really disappointed. His last list, he's been running a list with different stuff in it for a while. Like he's been running the LOI and stuff. But I think he went crazy on the Honor Guard, which he hadn't run very much at all in his lists. In fact, I think the most he'd run is 1. I like the Honor Guard. Obviously, they're great. They're a lot of points. I think he's missed my favourite unit, which he had been running, which is the Pike block. You know, the
mercenaries.
The mercenaries with +1. You know, CS. Those guys are crazy tar pits. Just fantastic, and they'll kill stuff. You have that, and you can throw some stuff behind, and they're just brilliant. And he's been running those with his unit, with his army, and doing really well. Obviously, he's in the Masters. This list is completely different to anything I've seen him run, and so I was quite surprised. And I think he admitted he kind of panicked at the end. Had about 10 different lists, and this was completely different to all the others. So, but the Eloi as a ally is his kind of default because he's got models he likes, and I think it's it adds a lot to the list.
Yeah,
but of the two,
things,
but of the two lists that are in, they're very different. The two you'll see when we get to Tracy's list. So I think Nick has set himself a bit behind. His default list, in my mind, is a lot better. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, the list I faced against Nick, and I got a draw against Nick at Castle Assault. That list I believe was a lot stronger than this one. The Honor Guard are nice, but they'll get outranged by just about everything. All the other cavalry, that is. I mean, they are a hard unit to take out, but they will be outranged. They'll struggle. Those volley guns are necessary. Hate those bloody things. They just deny areas. But I agree. I know it's his default, the Elohai, but I'm not sure about taking the hero one. Whether he just got away with just the unit and had those points somewhere else.
I'm with you. I think
he's going to struggle. And like you say, I did read somewhere that he had panicked. He had that many lists, and I think he's taken this one on panic. The one I faced at Castle Assault was a lot harder than this one. But Nick's a good player though, so.
And I'll throw it out there that he forgot to put 5 points on his. You'll see he's got 1995. So
that's his point. That's his points denial tactic, though. Remember?
Yes, that's right. But if he missed 5 points somewhere, like a fire oil on his halfling scouts, that'll make all the difference in a game. He'll be kicking himself.
Yeah, it's like this one to me was. I put it on a par with Matt Lang, around 7 out of 10. Like you say, totally agree. I think he's taken it with a bit. He had that many choices and he's just grabbed one. The Castle Assault list, I think, would have been stronger.
Yeah, I really rated his Castle Assault list. So, anyway, good luck to Nick. Nick's one of the guys who does a lot of organising of events, so I hope it does well for that reason. He's also from New South Wales.
So next up we have Ken Ferris with Bissels. Again, this is sort of much nastier looking one, I thought, personally, with all the succubi, tortured souls. It's kind of a mix of who's what you don't want to face from Abyssals, really.
Yeah, it's we've not seen much of the succubi up here. We see tortured souls a lot. Afrits are just worth the weight in gold. I can't believe, and he's only taken one, to be fair to him. He's got his abyssal temperatures backing up the succubi. The Archfiend is always a must-have. Croniuses are great as well. And he's a good player. But the Succubi, to me, that's 3 regiments with really low nerve and only defence 3. Come up against shooting armies, they're going to disappear very, very fast.
Yeah,
Hello?
Sorry, keep going. Yep. Sorry, you're right, go.
Yeah, you got your Tortured Souls. Yeah, of course, the Shambling, but once they get in there, they're good. Again, I've just got a feeling there's maybe one or two too many heroes here. It's still a strong list. And I'd be watching for the Tortured Souls and the Archfiend doing what they do well. I sort of rated this one 8 out of 10.
So what'd you give out of 10, Kev?
8 out of 10.
Oh, 8, yeah. I actually think it's a bit better than that. I think the only thing he really wasn't interesting to me is I would have kept only one of the Abyssal Temperatures. I understand, that they're inspiring for the Succubi, but I would have just kept the one, and their Bane Chan is fantastic. I reckon 2 Ifrits are just gold. You have 2 Ifrits and Kronios, and you're going to get rid of a lot of the threats to the Succubi very quickly. The Succubi have the Ensnare and the Fury and Stealthy. They're a lot better than they seem on paper because of the Def 3. And there's not a ton of the Breath Weapon Lightning Bolt spam that would counter Succubi easily. In fact, is the easiest counter you can get. And without those, I think people are going to struggle a little bit more than they thought with those regiments. The Torture Souls are gold. Abyssal Temptress with Fly and Bane Chance great to get around with the Inspiring. Still has the 5 attacks sitting on 3. The Archfiend of the Abyss is the default sort of loadout, I guess, for people who want the big guy. So I'm putting this list in the 8.5 to 9. I think if you'd taken the Ifrit over the second Abyssal Temtress, that would be crazy awesome. Obviously, it's more points, and you'd have to squeeze some, but it's just this is a tight list. I like it.
Nice.
And Ken, by the way, Ken organised the Masters, so if his wins, there'll be a lot of people pushing wandering away. No, just kidding. Ken does a lot for the scene as well, and he's one of the guys that a lot of people came over from War Machine or Warhammer, and Ken has been a guy that's been in the scene for as long as I can remember playing Warhammer. So it's great to see him doing well on this one as well.
Cool. Next up then we've got Carl Booth with the dreaded, Jesus, this is a big list, Goblins. One thing I'm just noticing looking at the rankings with Carl, he's got up here with only 3 tournaments under his belt.
This guy is my dark horse to win the event. I think this list is phenomenal. He's a really good player. And it's very different to what people normally see with.
Actually, yeah, there's no war trumpets, is there? I was looking there and suddenly I was expecting to see the 3 war trombones now, but it's just 3 big rock throwers and actually quite a lot of combat.
Yeah, it's mainly combat list. This one, it's a horrendous amount of attacks. They're all very low defense, but the sheer amount of drop attacks is unbelievable.
So the only thing I think that can work against him is if he doesn't get enough practice. I assume he does, but he's the guy that's coming from WA, so he's got a 4-hour flight. Depends how much practice he gets on the chess clock.
Yeah, I was thinking that because you're going to have to know exactly what you're doing quickly for just to make sure you get the best out of this list.
And yellow. Sorry, Ken, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, playing against the clock and this many drops, you're exactly right. You have to know exactly what you're doing and stick to it and be fast. Otherwise, against the clock, you're stuffed. It's a hell of a lot of drops. Yes, some of them will be disappearing fast, in which case, you're then switching your tactics and everything. It's and just to point out, Carl is the main driver in Western Australia. He organises a lot of the tournaments in the scene over there as well. So full kudos to Carl for that. Yeah, again, I'd sort of rated this one fairly low. It was another 7 out of 10. Yes, the more beasts and the trolls are very good. There's a lot of them. Can threaten a lot of flanks. 3 big rock throwers. We don't see many war machines up here. They're not popular unless they're the breath ones.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
Yeah,
I think he'll struggle, and he'll also be knackered because he's getting the red eye flight in, as far as I know. So he's going to be absolutely shattered.
well, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for his list. I think it's very left field. It'll catch people off guard, and he's a dark horse for me to be on the podium with the top 3.
Difference of opinion here then. It'll be interesting to hear that one does, because it is a very unique list. I've not seen an Orc and Goblin one that looks like, or a Goblin one, sorry, that looks like that. So that's one to keep an eye on. So
Whichever one of us is correct, the other one can have buy them a beer at CanCon. How's that?
That sounds good enough to me.
So next up we have Evan Ferris, your top herd player who's bringing his herd. I think this is a pretty solid list. I'm currently working in a herd army myself, and we had double Guardian Brutes, Spirit Walkers again, solid choices, some good chaff, some big things. Quite a small list on the whole compared to sort of some of the ones we've seen, but I think it looks pretty solid to me.
Yeah, those Spirit Walkers, if they get near a wood, they're just so hard to crack. They've got the high nerve Pathfinder sat in a wood. Those buggers aren't going down. The Guardian Brutes, another excellent unit. They're going to wreck face. And Fury, which is my favourite thing in the game, hence my Mounted Sons Varanga. So they're absolutely brilliant. Brutox, that's okay. Fury, Strider is good. Strider is way better than Pathfinder. And you need to, because of its regen, you need to take the thing down in one go.
Yeah.
I'm not sure many of the armies have that to take it down in one go. The Beast Packs are good blockers, good chaff.
Got the Chineers to protect the flanks. It's a pretty solid damn list.
Yeah, this was definitely 8, maybe a bit more out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. It was a favourite list. It's one of my top lists.
Yeah, I'm not as sold on it. I still think it's probably an 8 out of 10. It's better than some of the lists we talked about, but I don't think it's in the top bracket of lists. Evan's Ken's brother, and another one of the Warhammer and War Machine etc. guys that's played for a long, long time, and he's played this same exact list all year pretty much. He plays a lot just with the same list, and that's what he does. So he knows it inside out, so that will work strongly in his favour. But I personally think, the Guardian Brutes are beasts in combat, but people will know what to target. It does have the 2 beast packs, but I think it's the Shamans not having the heal upgrade will be really painful. That's a big strength in the list in my mind. Things like the Spirit Walkers that you can just keep healing up, because they've only got Thunderous Charge 1. So while they have a lot of attacks, the grind that will work better for them. The double Chimeras is excellent though. Brutox is a pretty awesome unit. And he's got obviously the Centaur Chief just to go and try and smash something. Though I would have been interested to see whether he had given the Centaur Chief the boots so that he can try and knock some shooting out, which will damage things like the Guardian Brutes who can't go into any terrain.
Yeah, one of the things that I wasn't sure about the Centaur Chief myself, but we'll see what he's using. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just to try and combat a flyer while he turns something around. Try and get the hits because it's got Blade of Slashing, take away the flying and the nimble, and pin it so that the other units can smash it, which I think you need in the Clash of Kings pack. Gives you the option to do that now. So I think it's a good list. It's a strong list, but I don't think it's in the top bracket of lists.
So next up, we've got Chris Wilcox, is it? With now your top Gobble player, and he's brought Goblins, and this looks a bit more like the Goblin list we'd expect to see here, really.
It's a bitch to play, pardon my French. It's an all-out, just, it's a horrible list, and with a good player playing it, yeah, It's 10 out of 10. When we get to Clint's list, which I strongly suspect is designed to take down Chris's list, the only one I think that's going to deal with Chris's list, it's just a horrendous list to play. There is just so much shooting. He plays it very well. I know people going about spam lists and that, but you could have any player pick it up and just not play it as well as Chris, and it crumbles very quickly. Once you hit it, it goes very quick, but you've got to get there. And Chris plays it exceptionally well.
It just is all the chaff there in the world, doesn't it, really? It's all the chaff, all the shooting, and then he's got it backed up with those two ogre hordes to bring more shooting and the combat.
Yeah, I think just about every single thing, yes, in fact, every single thing shoots. It's just, I've played it a few times, like I say, I've played it a few times in tournaments. It's the only one I've never beaten in a tournament scenario. I've beaten it in casual. But to be fair to him, it's the Masters. The gloves are off. Take the best list you can and play the hell out of it. He's just going to shoot people off the table.
How's he going to be? The one thing that worries me looking at this is you're going to be rolling a lot of dice every single turn. That's going to eat into your time.
He has, but he's got it down pat. This he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly, and he's probably 2 or 3 moves ahead of people. So he's got all his dice ready. And like I say, because we play so often, he knows what people are likely to do. So he knows where he's moving. He's got his dice in piles ready for which ones can shoot. And like I say, he's usually 2 turns ahead. It's between him and we'll get to Clint in a minute. There's 3 people I rate that can take this, and I think Chris is going to be the one to beat. If someone beats Chris's list, they'll be in with a good chance.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. Chris is a very good player. This is a very it's in the rules. You can play it, but it's not a lot of fun to play against, particularly if he gets first turn, because you're going to remove units before you even have a go. I've beat on the end of that. I managed to get a draw, but only because I could get a flanking force down a train protected flank. And I think a lot of it will come down to the table layout. Chris has played a lot more since I played him. I played him at CanCon, so he'll know those sort of maneuvers inside out now and be ready for them. Easily the list to beat. The other thing that might come into play is the event. For those that aren't aware of it, the very first game, the matchups are top versus bottom seed, and then work your way together. But you move tables and you play different armies, and you roll off to see which army you get. So someone gets to use this army, not Chris, in the first round. So that will be that. Who gets to? So somebody will get to play against this list where Chris is not running it.
Oh, right.
As well. So that might assist as well. So anyway, we'll see. But I think this list is the gold standard as far as optimized. But for shooting, it's just phenomenal. And I don't see any list other than Clint's that has a decent chance straight up of beating it.
The other thing to point out at this point, the first round everyone swaps army, which is going to be interesting. And
table.
And table. And this tips who I think Queensland will do really well here, because Clint's in our year-long league has played 7, possibly 8 armies. We challenge him to a new army. He takes it, practices it, comes first. So he's got experience playing with 7 or 8 armies. At the minute, I challenged him to win a tournament with Kingdoms and Men, so he's working on it. So that'll give him a lot of experience. And Chris doesn't just take his Goblin Pew Pew. He's fought with Goblin Melee. He's takes his Ratkin, which is mainly melee. I've never seen a man use slaves so well. And I think he's played with elves once or twice as well. So I know Andrew Goodman plays with Abyssal Dwarfs and elves, but I think Clint and Chris, on the experience of playing with and against so many armies, that's definitely going to give him the upper hand on the round one. But it'd be interesting to see someone else. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how someone else plays Chris's shooty list.
It's an interesting little twist. It definitely kind of, I quite like that one actually. I see what you're going for there. I encourage you, if you take a filthy list, you may end up, playing it. So next one then up, we've got Jeff Tarish. Hopefully I pronounced that right. With of all things, League of Rhodesia, or Rhodesia, which again, don't see that one. And then you've got two of them here.
It isn't all of all things, because he's been playing nature a lot. But this is another guy who plays, different lists, but he plays nature quite a lot. And everyone sort of expected him to rock up with Forces of Nature. And then left field, he turned up with this list. Tracy is very cunning. He's called the Ninja because he's, a mega black belt guy. But he's been playing all different games. Again, another one of the guys that's played a lot of different systems for a long time in the New South Wales scene, and has always done well. He's very, very canny. He is kind of a benchmark in the New South Wales scene in a lot of in Warhammer and War Machine and now in Kings of War, as if you can do well or hold your own against Tracy, you're doing exceptionally well. And a lot of people in that group practice with him. So this was very left field. It's an interesting list. I can kind of see where he's gone there with the City Militia are great units, but he's going to rely a lot on those Dukes, and I kind of would have liked to have seen him take his Forces of Nature instead, which he's had a lot of success with. He apparently went through like 10 different lists, couldn't figure out one that could combat all of the potentials, because no one saw each other's list until they were all submitted. All the potential kind of combos that might come up, so he went with this. So Tracy as a player is one of the best players I've seen in any game system he's decided to play. I'm not sold on the list 100%. So
my point of view is those 4 hordes of militia sat either side of that battle shrine with the rallying on it. Got the tank there. That main battle line with those 4 massive hordes, the shrine, the tank, they're going to be a bugger to break. He's got some shooty halflings that will be more annoying than anything else. And then, as Drew said, those 3 Dukes on flying Aurelises or whatever you say are going to be trying to get down the flank at the most. And it's going to be hard to deal with them as that big, huge block of infantry just ponder across the field, virtually, with that rallying 2, that shrine, the tank, that's nasty battle line. That's a hell of a nasty battle line. Don't know that much about Jeff. We hear he's a very methodical player, so I don't know how much they've used clocks down there. So whether that comes into favour of the other players, if he is a methodical player and a very careful player, and he's not used to clocks, that could be an advantage. But yeah, that's a solid battle line. And then you've got the 3 hard-hitting flanks units.
But interesting to see what he does with it.
Yeah, I think this is one that can be 4 hordes of infantry plus the tank. I agree, it's an amazing battle line with the battle shrine there to bump them up. But you get 1 or 2 impassable pieces around the middle of the board or in an area you need to get to, and suddenly the effectiveness of that list becomes, you're now getting to put 2 or 3 things against his City Militia. It'll all come down to how people handle those Dukes. If you can handle the Dukes early, then there isn't a lot left that can you can turn his flanks, or get behind him. So it'll be very interesting. But as a player, I'd rate Tracy in the top group of players. Anything he plays as a list, 8.5 for me.
So
I'd probably agree on the 8.5.
So I think okay, interesting one to see. So next up we've got Clint Richards with Night Stalkers, and I have to admit, out of all the armies you have here, this is the one I'd take. This is a ridiculously fast, aggressive list. I really do like this one. A little bit spammy for my taste, I have to admit, but gonna do well against those gun lines you're seeing floating around out there.
I strongly suspect, because I'm sitting opposite him as I speak, and he's never admitted it, but this list has been designed to kick the crap out of Chris. By far and away, this is the list to kill Chris. It's a good list. I said to Clint he should have taken his Ratkin, which I think is a way more powerful list, but no, he's taken a list to take Chris and relying on his skill to take the others out.
I got to say, Clint is my pick to win. I think as a rounded player, he's the best currently in Australia. As a list, it's the best chance against Chris's list, and you've got to think that they're going to come up against each other at some point. They're the top two lists in my mind, is the Goblin Shooty list and this list. Ken's, I've got the inside scoop, but obviously this list is designed to stop those kind of lists. Maybe Clint expected to see more of them, but this is the other 10-10 list. It's the rock to the scissors, and I think Clint is the man to beat. He's the guy who currently going to. Number one is his to lose, I think, rather than to win at this stage. No pressure, and you can tell him, Ken, is he listening?
He's listening.
But I mean, you have a look at, because for those that look at rankings, you can have a look to see what different armies he's taken. I think he's got from memory 5.
Yep, he's got 5. I'm looking at it now. Yeah,
yep.
And most played, most races.
Yeah, and that's so 5. He's won the best player of those races, and then he's also got the most played races that Ken mentioned earlier. So the first round will suit him well. The matchup against Chris, which Chris will knock other people out, so he'll knock people down, I think, with his phenomenal list and skill. And then Clint knocking Chris out will then give him the leg up over the others. So this is the other 10-10. If I could give a 10.1 out of 10, I would. And I think it would be good. I actually also would agree with Ken. I've seen the Ratkin list that people have posted of Clint's before, and that's an amazing list. And the beauty of that list, it would screw up most of the people who got it first round, because playing Ratkin on a chess clock, if you're not familiar with Ratkin, was going to bone you. This list is a little bit more simpler to play. But anyway, I think, and I wondered how many people, by the way, have gamed that, say that Goblin list with all melee, have gamed the idea that someone else is going to have to play this list first round, and they're going to probably clock themselves. So anyway, Clint's the guy to beat. This is
I think I'm not knowing the actual players, but this is the one I think is the one that immediately jumped out as me. This is going to 20-0 people and get big wins. May lose big, but I think overall the speed it's got is just going to hammer home so many of them and outmaneuver them. Really did like that one. I would
say, I'd say, I mean, it's a good list, but I'd be giving it 8, maybe 8.5 out of 10. Compared to his Ratkin list, it's nothing. I would have loved to face this, because with my Varanga, it's just evenly matched. I'd take him on defence. I'd love to play this list, to be honest. Against his Ratkin list, I had to sacrifice my entire army to win that game of push. I was just throwing stuff to slow him down. But yeah, it's an 8.5 list. It's a good list, but it's an 8.5. But it's got Clint playing it, which I've got a lot of respect for Clint. So any list Clint plays usually becomes a 10.
He says he's got a lot of respect because Clint's sitting in front of him.
Is that
what
Ken? And he's bigger than me.
Yeah, Clint's just sharpening the machete, but whatever.
So last one we've got here is your current number 1, Andrew Goodman, who's brought along Abyssal Dwarfs. It's pretty mixed list, this, I think. Pretty sort of balanced list looking at it. Some chaff, some shooting, some solid combat blocks.
This is a softer list than he's played before.
Yeah, go on, Drew, sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, go, Ken, go.
Yeah, to be honest, this is my favourite list by far. this would be my 9 out of 10 list. This is a really good list, and he's a really good player, in my opinion. He's got the free inspiring sources, which is good. Those grotesques are lethal, and ones went up in speed as well. I seem to remember.
Yep.
But they are fours to hit, but they're still lethal. The golems, those defense 6 golems are just nasty. You got your gargoyles, and I presume you can use gargoyles, right? Because they do need using, right, as to annoy the flanks or to come in as chaff. The black souls can just be used as chaff. The dragonfire teams are lethal. There's your flame breaths. The heavy mortar, again, we don't see many war machines. They're a bit iffy, but if that thing does hit, well, it's all over. And I've always rated Bazoo, or however you say it. That's really good. This is, to be honest, this is my favourite list of all 10. Hello?
Assume the breaker's me then. I've seen a couple of the lists he's played before, and I think this one's a little bit, not softer, but a little bit weaker than some of his lists. Not by much. I still think it's in the top 3 or 4, probably top 4 lists in my mind, as far as power. AG, though, is a very, very good player. He won CanCon, which I said earlier was the biggest event. He won it this year. He sort of played around different...
Drew, he was second. Nick won.
Oh, Nick won. That's right. Sorry. Yeah, he came second. My apologies. But he's a very, very good player. And he's won a lot of the events in the Victorian scene. I think potentially what might stand against AG in this event is that the Queensland scene, as Ken outlined, is much more mature as far as the number of events and the use of chess clocks and whatnot. So I think that gives Clint and Chris a significant leg up. But AG is ranked number 1. I think most of these guys are all got a chance, but AG's got a solid thing. I put him in his list in the top 4. I would put him in the top 3 to 4 as far as chance to take it out. But I think maybe the list isn't as strong as it's had before. I think he's had instead of going I think he had a triple mortar list once that I can't remember all the combinations he had in it, but they were really good. But having said that, it's got things like the Abyssal Grotesques, because I think Abyssal Dwarf list, the list that you can pick from, is one of the best in the game. The Grotesques are fantastic. The Gargoyles, to keep them, because only speed 7 or 8 with their +1. You need those. The Black Souls I'm not really sold on. I know they're cheap, but I think they're not fantastic. The Dragonfire teams are brilliant, and breath weapons in this game are pure gold. So I'd probably give this one a 9 out of 10. And I'd give AG, I'd put him up there with Clint, Chris and Boothie as my 4 guys that I think have in my mind, are fighting for the podium. But who knows what'll happen on the day.
So talking of that then, if you're placing a bet, who would be your winning choice?
Go for it, Kev.
I'm going to say Clint, but to be fair, I've got Andrew, Clint and Chris in the top 3. A lot will depend on that first round, and I think that's where my money will go on Clint.
How about you, Drew?
Oh, that's tough. I can give you my top 4.
Yeah, pick the winner. Pick the winner.
4 out of 10. Pick the winner. My head says Clint. I think he's got. I explained all the reasons why, but I'm going to throw the Kiss of Death. Sorry, mate. On Boothie. That's the guy with the melee goblins. I think the list is a little bit out there for people. So I think.
If he does win, you're going to look awesome. Put it that way.
Yeah, but I didn't take the easy path. Ken had no choice because he was about to get bashed. But Clint, I think is probably the head favourite, and Boothie the heart favourite.
I owe Clint a good kicking anyway, because the last tournament he had, he put a bounty on my head for anyone who could table me. So everyone forgot about trying to win the tournament and went to me, the bastard. It's not nice playing when people are just trying to table you.
Well, thanks very much for that, guys. It's been quite an...
Yeah, just to say, can't remember, the scenarios will make the big difference, and I'm not sure what they're playing. Oh, it's random. Yeah, so...
Oh, full-on random. That's an interesting twist.
Yeah, so if it's full-on random, that's going to be interesting, because, again, I'm not a huge believer in the lists make the difference. I think it's the player and the scenario. The terrain, as Dru mentioned earlier, will make a big difference, especially for those hordes. But the scenarios will make a big difference as well. At least they haven't got kill there, because you're out of practice on kill. They've got kill and pillage. So, yeah, the scenario is going to make a difference. Terrain's going to make a difference. Lists we've been through. Of course, publicly, I'm going for a Team Queensland 1-2 again. And I think Andrew Goodman will be the one to upset the apple cart. But I still think Clint will out number one. And then I'm going to beat him the day after and then claim it was me.
I'm actually, in transparency, I'm actually from Queensland originally, so, I'm kind of rooting for the Queensland to do well. But, I'll, to even out Ken, I'll hope the apple cart gets completely toppled, pulled apart and burnt in a bonfire. And I was born in WA, so Boothie, I'll give you props over there. So anyway, yeah, I think, the thing is we're trying to rate lists and trying to talk about players and stuff, but the reality is that if they're good enough to be in the Masters, we're slicing, here. These are 10 fantastic players, 10 very interesting lists, and it'll be an awesome spectacle. I'll give, if I could, just a quick shout out to say Clash of Kings Australia is on in January. Matt Grove's doing a fantastic job. There is a crazy amount of sponsorship he's got on board for it. If anyone's interested in coming across the pond or is listening in Australia and hasn't come yet, it's in towards the end of January. I think it's the 27th.
29th, 28th, 29th, something like that.
Sometime between the 27th and 29th of January.
At the end of January, but you can go have a look. It's the 28th and 29th, yeah. So there's Wargamer AU, there's forums, you can have a look there, or you can go on the Facebook page for it, and Matt will sort you out with the details. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for the time. Hopefully everyone listening sort of found that interesting. It's a sort of very different scene you've developed down there, I think, from the likes of the UK anyway. The lists are very different, and so I'll be curious to see what the final result is. But thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, and don't forget, I don't know shit, but I kept all the rude puns to 0. So I think
I'm actually quite surprised by that.
I know I did them all when we weren't recording, so I don't know who's going to listen to it, so I've got to be careful. But if you stop recording, I'll tell you some more.
Right, cool. Thanks for your time, Ken. Thanks for your time, Dru. And hope you enjoyed that. And like, share, subscribe, usual nonsense you have to say at the end of a YouTube video. Catch you all later.